YouTube, what's cracking? It's Matty B. Welcome back to the channel, and as always, I appreciate y'all tuning in. This weekend, we'll be southbound and down, headed down to the beautiful Sunshine State. Gonna head to Daytona Beach, Florida for some Supercross, Arenacross, and everything in between. And I figured today's video could be interesting because last year I saw a lot of people do the doubleheader where they race the Arenacross on Friday night and then the Supercross on Saturday just to try to stack a little bit of extra money while they're there. Because as we know, racing ain't cheap. A lot goes into it. Don't even get me started on the bikes and the parts and the maintenance. And then you got hotels, entry fees, food, gas for your vehicle, you name it. It's in the contract as a fee for racing at the highest level. It's just the way she goes. In really all forms of motorsports, got to pay to play. So I wanted to do today's video kind of comparing the living you can make racing in the small confines of Arenacross versus the big stadiums of Supercross. And before anybody gets their panties in a bunch, this video is not an attempt to discredit the money these guys make in Supercross, but rather more of me highlighting that there's multiple ways to make money on a dirt bike, and this is only two of them. Obviously, Supercross is the pinnacle of the sport. We all know it's the fastest to get paid.
And it's the fastest who gets laid.
But there's a lot more money out there if you're willing to get out there and bang bars for it. And even recently, we've seen some racers transition from Supercross back down to Arenacross, which at first it probably sounds like a bit of a demotion, like you're headed down to the minor leagues. But in this video, I'm going to try to explain to you guys some of the reasoning behind why some of these guys do what they do, and maybe that'll stop some of you keyboard warriors for saying, oh, they're just cherry picking, blah, blah, blah. These guys are out here trying to make a living. They're risking their lives. And on any level, if you're racing professionally, you're a bad dude. Two of the more recent people we've seen do this, Kyle Peters, 5-time champ. And then this year he was taken down by Vince Friese, who we've seen causing commotion and chaos in Supercross for many years. Now he's dropped down to Arenacross, so he's made things interesting. And these guys are cashing in big time. It's kind of one of those things where you got to decide, do you want to be a big fish in a small pond or a small fish in a big pond? And being the big fish in the small pond of Arenacross is actually a bit more rewarding than most people probably know. And obviously Supercross, it's got the best of the best. They make the most money, but I'm really talking more about these mid-tier level riders, no disrespect. And in this video, I know there's multiple Supercross series. Now there's AMA Supercross and World Supercross, and there's plenty of Arenacross series, Outlaw, AMA, and otherwise. But just for the purpose of this video, we're going to do the AMA series for both Supercross and Arenacross. Even did a little bit of homeschool math. Don't worry, guys. I did go to community college and a little bit of real college until I dropped out. So there's a decent chance this math could be right, but let's go ahead and get into it. No choice.
Dude, is your bike stock plain Jane like your love life? Check out quickmoto.com. They got options galore, customizable sections too.
So first, we'll go ahead and get into this 450 Supercross race payout. It says first place is $14,000. And you guys are probably thinking that sounds a little bit on the light side, but you got to remember there's top three guys have these big manufacturer bonuses. So that $14,000 for first place probably turns into at least $114,000. And the top three guys are getting hefty bonuses. I've always thought whoever gets fourth in these Supercrosses is getting the shaft because they go from making probably 30 grand to only 3,600. And as you see, after about fourth place, the increments are pretty small. And if you make the main, you make at least 2250. And that's, of course, before manufacturer contingencies, which I do think are at their best in Supercross. And almost forgot to give credit where it was due. I got this payout chart off Vital MX. Then under the 450 Supercross LCQ payout, and as you see, there's two payouts. The one on the left is the one they used before the addition of Super Motocross in 2023. That gave the payout for both classes a nice little bump with the significant portion going to the end of the season for the Super Motocross playoffs. But if you're making the night shows, you're making at least $1,250 a weekend, and that's before the manufacturer contingencies I've been talking about. And there even are some manufacturers that pay even if you just make the night show each weekend. So doing it alone off this payout, it would definitely be tough to make ends meet, but Supercross does provide the opportunity to race on the big stage. You're on live TV every weekend, and it's the easiest form of racing to get support and sponsorship dollars for. And I think we can all agree it's the premier series. It's what everybody grows up dreaming of racing. Now onto the 250 Supercross payout, and it's kind of the same thing. Those top three guys are going to get those big bonuses and cash out. Fourth on back, it's kind of pennies on the dollar compared to those podium guys, but if you want to get paid, you got to finish on the box. And strangely enough, the 250 Supercross class is really what got the significant bump in payout. A lot more money was poured into the series and the sport from NBC due to the inception of the playoffs. And if you look towards the bottom of the results in a 250 main event, you get about 2.5 times more money than you would have a few years ago. And that even bleeds over into the 250 LCQ. The payout before SMX came along was only $576 to make a night show. And I remember when I was trying to budget for Supercross, I had no idea how I was going to make it work, but now it's at least $1,000 no matter what if you're in the night show. So that's definitely a positive change for all involved. And also, you can't forget some of these higher level guys are chasing that big carrot at the end of the season with the huge payout that SMX provides. It's not perfect, but it definitely has improved. Now let's flip the page and go look at the Arenacross payout. And at least for as long as I've been following Arenacross, 2025 has the best payout that I've seen yet. $1,800 per main event win, 2 main events a night, and 2 nights per weekend. Then you have the Clash for Cash cash, which is gas versus electric, $2,000 to win it, $1,000 for second, and $500 for third. And just some quick simple math will tell you $1,800 per main event. You win both main events, that's $3,600. Winning the clash is $2,000, so that's a potential of $5,600 a night. If you do that 2 nights, which I think Vince Friese may have even done it this season, that's the potential for $11,200 to make just from the series. That's before any bonuses, contingencies, or anything like that. If you're a third place guy all weekend in the main events in the clash, you're looking at a $5,000 weekend. And hell, if you're Michael Hicks and you race gas and electric, you have a total of $13,200 in potential earnings. Then you have the points fund for if you stick out the whole season in your top 5 in points. So obviously when you're thinking how much money really can be made, Supercross, again, is the pinnacle. That's where you can make the most money if you're the best of the best. But that's not always attainable for everybody. So if you're a second tier rider or just a little bit below that, these payouts in Arenacross can really make you some good money, as I'm going to get into. We'll start with Vince Friese, and what did he actually make by going down to Arenacross this year? So if you paid any attention to AMA Arenacross, you would know Vince Friese was a man among boys this year. He won a majority of the main events, was pretty much always on the podium, was always in the top 3 in the kicker clash for cash, and he's already wrapped up the championship a round early. But using that payout chart and doing the math based on all of Vince's finishes during the season, he made $65,000 total before Honda contingency or anything from MCR, which I do think it's known that MCR has some pretty good bonus structures. Now, here's where it's really going to start to make sense to you guys why Vince went down to Arenacross. Let's compare how much he made in Arenacross versus how much he would typically make where he finishes in Supercross. I think it's fair to say Vince is usually around a P15 guy in the 450 class, so that would be about $2,600 a race. Multiply that by 17 rounds. And then I wasn't able to find this payout chart anywhere, but I do believe it's at least a $10,000 bonus at the end of the year if you're top 20. For the sake of this video, we're just going to estimate that it goes up in $1,000 increments. That would make Vince's Supercross earnings around $55,000 to $60,000. And when you compare that to $65,000 in Arenacross for a shorter season against less competition, can you really blame the guy? If any of you at home behind your keyboards are saying you'll take a harder job for less money, you're just lying to yourselves. And none of this data is meant to be a dig on Supercross. Of course a guy is able to make more money by winning a series compared to getting 15th in it. Guys make $1 million plus by winning Supercross championships. Big fish, small pond. And don't forget, these are only earnings from the series. Nothing more, nothing less. Now we'll move on to Michael Hicks, and he was in a unique spot this year, doing the gas and electric Ironman effort at every round. And he's done a damn good job of it, as he's leading the points in the electric class, and he's third in points in the gas class. The only opportunity I really feel like Hicks has missed out on during this Arenacross season is the kicker clash for cash, but something has to give. The guy's racing all night long, but he's soldiered through. He's been primarily a podium guy in the gas class with a few wins here and there, and then he's won a majority of the electric class main event. So when you add up all of his finishes using the payout chart, he's up to $32,400, and that's with one more night of racing in Daytona. So I'm going to estimate he makes probably about $3,000 this weekend, and he's sitting third in the championship, so that's an extra $7,500. So that would bring his grand total to $42,900 for the season. Now, how would this compare to what Michael Hicks would make in Supercross? He races 250s, there's 7 East Coast races, and he's usually a main event guy, so he'd make about $2,000 per main, but then 3 of the other races are showdowns, so let's say he just gets in the night show, that's an extra $3,000 right there for LCQ finishes, and that would be a grand total of $17,000 compared to almost $43,000. So it seems like Hicks has found a nice home for himself in Arenacross. Seems like the perfect place to make some cash, and he can still pick up this second half of the 250 East Series if he wants to. Now on to Vince Friese's teammate Ryan Breece, and he found himself to be the bridesmaid most of the season, a lot of second place finishes, but also a handful of wins in the kicker clash for cash. And so far throughout the season, his purse earnings have been $36,700. And again, one more night of racing in Daytona, so let's say he makes another few $1,000s there, and then he's looking to wrap up second in the championship, so that would be another $10,000 added to the tab. So just barely rounding up, it looks like Ryan Breece's likely season earnings should be just around $50,000. Now, to compare that with what Ryan could make in Supercross, I feel like he's usually a main event guy, not every time, but he typically makes it, so around $2,500 a race for the ones he qualifies for. But then if he doesn't make the main event, I think we're probably averaging around $1,500 per trip to the LCQ. Now, Ryan's been riding really well, so we're going to say for the sake of this video that he has a good season. He makes 14 main events and he misses 3 of them. And again, it's just an estimate, but that would bring his total over 17 rounds to about $38,000. And that's more rounds, more racing, more competition, and quite frankly, just probably a lot more work. And when you compare that to the 50 grand he's going to make in Arenacross this year, I think he's right where he needs to be. And again, this is only for a few months out of the year. You have the entire rest of the calendar year to do whatever you please. Last but not least, let's compare the financials of privateer Arenacross racing to privateer Supercross racing, just in general. Let's say you race the AMA Arenacross season and you average about 6th place all season and you grind it out for a 5th in the points. That gets you $1,600 a weekend multiplied by 6 weekends to a total of $9,600 plus $2,500 for 5th in the points. That brings you up to just over $12,000. On the flip side, if you race the 7 East Coast or West Coast Supercross 250 races, excluding the shootouts, if you're just a night show guy, you're only making about $1,000 a race, so that would bring your total up to $7,000 for the season. And when you compare that to the $12,000 I talked about in my example scenario from Arenacross, it doesn't sound ideal, but like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, Supercross is by far the most exposure you can get. You're on live TV every weekend, and it's the biggest stage you can race on. So I feel like it's much easier to get support and sponsorship dollars and all that to race Supercross than it would be for Arenacross. So that's probably one of many reasons why riders choose to go the Supercross route instead of Arenacross, despite the financial situation. And now for our final example of the video, we'll check out the difference between my example Arenacross scenario and just being a night show 450 guy across 17 rounds of Supercross. The minimum you can make for an LCQ finish is $1,250, so $1,250 times 17 rounds is $21,250, and when we compare that to the example Arena Crash scenario, it's actually considerably better than the $12,000 you would make with an average season of Arenacross. But again, you're going across 17 rounds compared to only 5 weekends and then 2 single-day events of Arenacross. And all in all, as a guy who can never cut the mustard, just trying to be one of the top guys in the sport, I just love the fact that there's multiple ways to make a living, multiple series you can race to make ends meet. There can only be one winner and there can only be 3 podium finishers, so why not give people more chance to become one of those? The title of the video is Can Racers Make More Racing Arenacross Than Supercross? And the easy, quick answer is no, absolutely not. It's not even comparable. If you're at the top and you're the best of the best, you can make way more money in Supercross. The potential is way higher. But if you're in that 12 to 15 or further back range, or maybe you're in the 250 class and you're on the outside looking in on one of those factory rides, maybe Arenacross or one of these other forms of racing is something you should look into. That's a wrap on today's video. I hope that maybe educated some of you guys and opened some of your eyes as to how much money these guys can make doing other forms of racing. And they're not just dropping down for an easier job. These guys are trying to make a living. They're trying to put food on the table, and they have no damn choice. So respect for everyone involved racing any of these pro series. They're all bad dudes, and I'm always entertained by watching all of them. And it's going to be no different this weekend, headed down to the sands of Daytona. Last year, the Arena Crash was a straight-up beach sand national, so I don't think they're going to have the same dirt. I wish they would for my sake, but for the bikes and the riders, I hope it's better. But I think they might have some clay sourced. And then, of course, Supercross is always going to be epic. The GOATs whipped up a good track for us this year. So I'm excited. Going to be leaving, headed down for it tomorrow. And yeah, that's it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you'll be at Daytona, keep an eye out for me. You know I'll be there without choice. And definitely say what's up. You know I love to banter with you guys and shoot the shit every time. So catch you guys next time and see you at the races.